All right, so we're going to get started with the project for today, 1221, and I am going to keep the slides open on the side with the steps. So the first thing I'm going to do on photop.com, I'm going to click File and then New. The last couple of projects we've been doing File and then Open, but we're starting a new project, so I'm clicking on New. I'm going to see this whole info, and for the name, I'm going to rename it. So what I want to do is name it city because we're going to actually be making it into a city landscape, December 21st, and then underscore your first name. So like Jawan would title his city December 21st, Jawan. What I am going to do is say city underscore December 21st underscore Miss A search. And then that's all I need to do here. I'm just going to click create. And then I get this pop up. So next step now is I am going to be making a sky background. This isn't like MS Paint with like a paint bucket of blue. We're too fancy for that. So you can decide if you're doing a daytime sky or a nighttime sky. And if you are in class right now, message me which one you're choosing, daytime sky or nighttime sky. So what I need to do first is I need to change the colors. So right now, I can see at the very bottom left, if I click on this little red rectangle, I see like that's the color that I have right now. I have it on red. I don't know any sky that's on red. So on this over here, this slider, I'm just going to click on blue and I'm going to go with a nighttime sky. So I'm going to choose kind of like darkish blue. You know what? I'm going to go with like almost a dark purple. And I can start with the slider to choose the color. Left and right is how dull or how intense it is. Up and down, or sorry, left and right is, yeah, how dull or intense. Up or down is how the value is. So if it's a lighter value or a darker value. So I'm going to go with a nice dark, kind of intense purple. And then I'm going to click OK. But I need to also choose this second color that's underneath because I'm doing a gradient. If I was just doing like a paint bucket, let's say I was doing a paint bucket, I would fill it all in with purple. I'm not doing that. I'm too fancy. So I'm going to click on the color underneath and I'm going to choose kind of dark blue. So I'm going to click on the blue over here. And on the bottom, you'll see like the color that it originally was. So I have like this dark blue on the top that I can see on the top right. And it was originally black. So I see that compared to it on bottom. So I'm going to click OK. So I see color, value, intensity, chose my second color. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that gradient tool. So the gradient tool is right underneath the eraser. Here's the eraser. Here's the gradient tool. It kind of looks like a little ombre guy, fading from one color to the next. It's there to help you out. At the very top, you'll see that it has that transition already from the purple to the blue. It has like a few different things we'll play with in a moment. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to see what it looks like. I'm going to click on the workspace. And this is basically the angle that the gradient's going to go at. Okay, that's pretty nice. I like that. I can undo it in the history. If I make the distance shorter, it's much more of a harsh change. If I make the distance wider, it's much more gradual of a gradient. I can also change the angle. I could do it left to right. I can do it up, down. Can do it diagonal. For a sky, I kind of like the up down effect sometimes. But another thing you can play with to get fancy is underneath where it says layer, you see this thing that says linear. What if we click on radial? Let's see what happens. You kind of get like a circle in the sky, which could be kind of cool. Could do angle. Oh, that's funky. Okay, click reflected. So it's kind of like a water reflection. I could click diamond. That's pretty cool. So I kind of liked it on linear. And then on blend mode, this is one other thing you can play with. This is what it should be like on normal. Oops, sorry. That was actually, I had it on a setting that was a little bit lighter. And I kind of like it on dissolve because dissolve just does like a really nice gradient. You could do it on lighten. Oops, that's a little bit too light. Can't even see it. Could do it on just playing around to see the different effects that these have. I could do multiply. and darken, which usually have the same or similar effects. Could do linear dodge, which is, well, I guess, a little bit too light still. Could do overlay, which is still a little bit too light. So some of these are just trial and error. Soft light, still too light. But let's try pin light. So that's a little bit more intense. It's like a light is shining directly on it. Linear light does a similar thing. So you can play around with these, see which ones you like. Some of them you aren't really going to see an effect, and that's okay. You can play around to see what you like. Yeah, see, some of them don't have an effect. Again, I usually like it on like linear and dissolve, but you could also do something like, I don't know, you could do it with radial, do like a really big one off the side. That would also look really cool. And I could literally stretch the entire thing. Oh, okay. I kind of like that. I think I'm going to roll with that. So when you have it, how you like it, again, this kind of goes over how to do it fancy, linear. That's my fave. So we're going to save our work right now. So File, Save as PSD. I know we haven't worked on it super long, but I still don't want it to get lost after all of the playing that we've done with it so far. So our next step we're going to do is, all right, so we have a cool background sky. What else can we put in it? If you are using a nighttime palette, meaning like you're using these dark colors like I am, you might want to do a moon. If you are doing the daytime sky, you might want to do sun. Up to you. So what I'm gonna do now, and like if you want to get fancy and do it even like, yeah, doing the sun at night or like the moon at night or daytime, you can get fancy, you can get weird with it. It's your artwork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a new tool for this. So at the very bottom, I have my colors now. I know what they do. I have the magnifying glass right above that. That lets me zoom in. If I click on the plus, zoom out. It has this little hand that I can basically, if I'm zoomed in, the purpose of the hand is basically just to drag it around. It doesn't move at all where the picture, like what's happening on the picture. It doesn't make any changes. It just lets you move it around if you're zoomed in. So I'm going to click fit the area. And you'll notice that I do that sometimes if I zoom in at the very top. I'll just click fit the area to zoom back out. So the one right above the hand is this little rectangle guy. We're going to need the rectangle tool later, but for right now, if we're making a moon or a sun, we want a circle. So here's how we're going to get that. When you're on the circle, you might see next to some of the icons this little arrow in the bottom right. If that means that you can right click on that tool to get some different options to pop up. Again, if you're using a Chromebook, right click on it by tapping your um, two fingers on the touchpad at the same time. So you'll notice that some of these have more than one option, which is just something that you will be learning more about as we get into it. Not all of them do, but just want to mention that because it's pretty cool. So I'm going to right click on my rectangle and I'm going to click on ellipse because I want to make it into a circle. So I'm going to choose where I want my moon. And I think I'm going to make it over here. And I'm going to click with my mouse where I want it to be. And then I can drag my mouse around for where I want it. But right now, it made an outline. So like that's weird. I need to fix that. I can see it also made a new layer for it. But right now it's not really being filled in. That's kind of weird. So I need to fix that. At the very top, underneath where it says layer, is this little button that says fill. I'm going to click that and I get four options. The first one says none, so that basically means it's see-through. It's just an outline. The next option is a color. So that's like filling it with just like a flat color. The next option is a gradient. So I could do a gradient with it. And then the option after that, that's the yellow one, is a pattern. So I could do like a pattern or a texture with it. So I'm going to click on the flat color. And to change the color, I could click on these little shortcuts at the bottom. But like, I think I want like just a little bit of a softer white. So what I'm going to do is instead of just clicking on one of these little shortcuts, I'm going to click on the square, or I'm sorry, rectangle above that. So again, fill, click on that white square or red square it might show up as, and then I'm going to click on the color that's at the top, not one of these like 10 colors down here. I'm going to click on the color that changes right here. And that brings me back to this color selector. So if I want to go with a white, maybe I'm just going to make it a little bit softer, but like with a yellow. So kind of like a little peach. This is just me being extra. And then I'll click OK. If I need to move it around, if I'm like, oh God, I don't like where that is, or if I want to change the color afterwards, I still can. So I can click on fill, I can click back on that color, and I can change it again. If I want to move it or change the size, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the background tool where I'm going to click on that mouse tool on the top left. I'm going to make sure I'm on the layer with my circle, and I can just move it around. If I want to make it bigger or smaller, just like I did with the backgrounds, I'm going to click on transform controls up here, and I can make it a little bit bigger or smaller. Oh, if I want to undo it, I'm going to click that X just because that made it basically not a circle, and I don't really want that. I'm going to click off transform controls. So now I have my moon. This goes through the same steps. Let's add a street next. So we're going to be making a cityscape, which is basically a landscape in a city. So what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we'll add some buildings, some details. Maybe I'll let you add some Godzillas knocking it down. We'll see. So we're going to add a street or a sidewalk on the bottom. How I'm going to do that is I am going to click on that little ellipse shape tool again. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to click on the rectangle. So again, I'm going to right click on the shape tool and I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to drag my mouse while holding it down across the entire bottom of the workspace. If it goes off the edge a little bit, it's fine. It won't stay that way. It'll just kind of occupy space off the edge. It doesn't matter. And then I'm going to release when I have it how I want it. Okay, so that's covering the right space, but like I don't want like a pure white sidewalk or street. That's a little bit weird. I mean, unless it's snowing, in which case you could do something with that and do like a snowy cityscape. Um, yeah, you could do that. I'm like thinking about that now. That could be kind of cool. So what I'm gonna do just to make it gray or black, I'm gonna click on fill at the very top and maybe I want to click on gradient. Maybe I want to click on pure color. I'm going to actually choose a pattern to give it some texture. So I'm going to click pattern. That's not the texture that I want. So I'm going to click on that yellow spiral that says pattern. It doesn't have an awful lot of options, but you can go through them and see if you like any of them. What I honestly like, oh, that's kind of cool for a different project. All right. This is basically like you could add more, but what I like is this black one up here that kind of has like a canvas or a tar type of pattern. So I'm going to click that. You don't have to. You could click on this and just click on like black or gray and do a solid color. You could do a gradient. I'm just going to go with the pattern and then I'm going to click out of that. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. So now I have my sidewalk. Last step now is I am going to add an additional shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a custom shape onto my page. I'm going to right click on this little rectangle shape tool one more time. And, I could get fancy and I could click line and do like lines off the sun and get all fancy like that. I'm not going to do that. I am I could click on parametric shape and, do like cool like hexagon, pentagon. I think it's only the 5 points. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to click custom shape. And you're like, okay, but like, how do I choose the custom shape? The very top right corner over here, you can click where it says shape. And this is what it's going to look like. So again, top right corner, click where it says shape. You get a whole bunch of options. A lot of these are like symbols more than they're shapes. So like, if you were making a beach, you could include this life thing. If you were making a map, you could include some of these droppers. If you wanted to literally use the find tool, search cloud, click star. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually add some additional shapes. It's up to you. I would recommend, because we're doing a landscape, to either add a star or clouds. You could also do both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this star. This is kind of like almost like review stars. I'm not sure why. I'm going to click on the one that's full. And I am going to put them where I want them. Stars are kind of small, so I'm going to make them kind of small. I'm going to use the fill tool, and what I'm going to go with is I'm just going to go with the solid color. I'm going to make some of them pretty small, and I can make a bunch of them. And okay, some of them are like kind of stretched out. So I'm just moving a little bit faster than I should be. And then to make it look like some of them are in front and some of them are in the back, I'm going to then make some of them pure white. Because that way, if you have some that are gray and some that are white, it's going to make it really seem like some of them are in the back and some of them are in the front. Just as a tip, I think that that looks very cool. So at this point, like you could also do it with clouds, same idea. We're going to save our work because like don't be that person whose work gets lost. Click Save as PSD. And yeah, you're going to notice you have a ton of layers now. Don't worry about it. If you ever need to move one of them, you can just click on that layer. That's totally fine. So we're going to do File, Save as PSD. Click that, and it downloads it to your computer. And we're going to be building on these tomorrow, so we do really need to have them saved. And now we are going to export this to put this beauty on Google Classroom. So what we're going to do is click File, Export As, and you can either do PNG or JPEG. There's nothing see-through about this, so either one's fine. I just kind of lean towards JPEG, and then I'm going to click Save. It downloaded it right to my computer with the name and everything, and I can go ahead, go onto Google Classroom for 1221 and upload this. Tomorrow we'll get a little bit funky with it. The exit ticket is here. So the exit ticket is what else can we add to our landscape to make it look more visually interesting? Give me 3 things you would like to see added. If you are working on this during class, you can do this in the chat on Zoom. If you're working on this after class, put this in the comments on Google Classroom for this assignment, please.